Welcome back to Drafting 101 with Ryu Rapunchon. And today we will be learning about how to draw a ground plan and section. So first you'll have to make a site survey, which is to go and measure all of the lengths of the wall in the space, and also if there are anything like windows in the space, or if it's just a blank wall. So get all those measurements, height and all. Then we can start. So here I am going to say we are going to be drafting John's room, and it is with the scale of 1/2 inch is equals to a foot. A quick reminder that ground plans is not only an aerial view of a space, the information on the ground plan shows you the space if you were to do the following. As if you were standing in the middle of the space or room or wherever you are at the theater, spread your arms to shoulder width, and then your fingertips are now laser beams, pew pew pew, and then you turn 360 degrees and cut the entire space open. You then fly up, look down, so you'll see the space as almost a section view of sorts, but that kind of section is called a ground plan. Let's move on. So, always great to have the info nearby so you know exactly what's up. So let's start with the first wall, which I identified as 9 feet in length, and just draw that in. So the next wall over is 11'6", but there are so many different gaps in it, which we've already pre-measured before. So for example, draw a light line which will be a good guiding line for you, and then start doing little ticks along that line of where the major changes in the ground plan happens, where there's a wall versus there is a window. So to me, all these ticks are really just indicators of the difference between where the walls are versus where the windows are. And now you can draw it in. So that's the wall, and that's the wall. That's a little wall. And remember, those things in between are windows. For me, while drawing a wall that is about to be built, I always think of it as 3 inches thick. If you look at your windows, it's definitely more than 3 inches thick, but in scenery, when we're building flats, it's roughly about 3 inches. So I'm gonna draw that in as walls being 3 inches thick. And what I'm drawing in now is, remember when you cut this to draw a ground plan, when you look down from the shoulder height, you will still see that windowsill, right? So that part has to be shown. That's why there's a little bit of line still there, because it is part of the opening. If you cut, as you can see, I'm hatching. Hatching means what? Hatching means you have cut into a solid piece of scenery. So that indicates the difference between an opening versus a wall. And in this opening, there is windows, right? So I'm currently creating the Muttons and Millions, but also there is the glass part of the window, which I'm drawing in, right? And it's so thin. Windows are so thin in terms of the plexi, the actual part of the acrylic that is inside itself, and that is what I am drawing in there. Again, the window casing, and the casing goes all the way around, therefore you have to draw lines of the casing. Great, so now that's the wall that we're looking at. And then next, another wall. We're doing the exact same thing as before. I think that it is 3 inches thick, even though in reality it's probably 9, depending on where you live, depending on the architecture, but I'm going to say that this particular wall, when built, will be 3 inches thick. And this is a solid piece that we've cut through, therefore I am going to hatch it because it is a solid piece of scenery. And there's no change here, there's no windows, there's no doors, So it's a solid piece of scenery. And this thing is a solid piece of wall, and there's no windows, there's no doors, so I'm just going to hatch it all. And then it meets with this weird nook. So it's just a wall, same thing. That nook was 5'5". So here we are drawing it 5'5". Bam, bam. Okay, so that wall meets up with a door that is sitting in between 3 inches of itty bitty wall, right? Clearly, this wall was just added in by my landlord, and there's something to be said about that, but that's for a different story. So there we are, the 3-inch of a little something, and the door is actually sitting in between these two walls, which means that it is an opening, right? So with openings, it's not a solid line. When there is an opening like that, you want to do the convention different from what the windows are. The convention is dashed lines. Dashed lines indicates an opening, but there's also a door, which I pre-measured, of course, and that thing was 2'3". So 2'3" wall, which is 2 inches thick, is sitting there. Hatch because what? Because we cut through it, and we need to show not just that there is a door there, but also how it swings and which way it swung, also indicated via a dotted line. And then we're going to draw in the next wall. So let's take a look at this wall real quick. What I've done for this wall, I've capped it to the small piece over in that corner. Why? Because in theater, if you open it like that, in that particular corner, there's always light leaks that could happen if walls aren't attached. So as a designer, I am going to decide that I'm going to extend the back side of the wall so that this wall will always meet up with each other. This will reduce the amount of light leaks in your set. As you can see here, all of the walls are now connected with minimal possibilities of light leaks in the set on the corners where walls meet up with each other. And now we're going to go ahead and dimension this ground plan. If you do not know how to dimension, the first version of the dimension video is uploaded on my YouTube channel, and you can find it there. Here we are. The wall is 12'6". Remember, it's different from the dimension that you have done during your site survey because now you've created extra depth within the walls. Therefore, the wall measurement itself will be bigger by 3 or 6 inches, depending on which wall we're talking about. And then here we are, dimensioning, so everybody can see on one page, even if they don't read that your scale is currently at a 1/2 inch scale to a foot, they know that the dimensions of the wall and the windows, openings of doors, are exactly what you've. And don't forget, the most important part of a ground plan is where in the set is the center of your set, which is indicated through a line, which is a long dash with a short dash called a center line. With the center line, we're going to use it to draw the section. So in this section, I want to draw the stage right portion of the ground plan because it has the most information so far. This is also not a symmetrical piece of drawing. So technically we should have drawn 2 different sections, but for the purpose of today, let's start with one. So you want to flip your ground plan so that you are now, if you are in the center of a stage, you are facing the wall you want to draw for your section. I am going to use a tracing paper to just figure all this out. I have now put a tracing paper on top of my ground plan that has been turned around. And all we know here is that the walls are 11 foot tall, with a 3-inch baseboard, and the windows are 3 feet away from the ground, 3 feet from the ground. So first, your ground plan provides you so much information already. For example, if you just give yourself a little bit of a tick mark on where the walls are and draw in the ground line where the floor is for your section wall, and then measure up to 11 feet because that's the height of the wall. Cap it out. That's the wall. Boom, done. And then measure up 3 inches because that's where the baseboard is. Draw the baseboard line, that's a baseboard. And the baseboard wraps around the entire room, therefore when you're cutting into the center line section, you're definitely cutting into the baseboard as well. And now the windows. I've already marked 3 feet up from the ground, and now I'm drawing the lines, tracing the lines from the ground plans of where the openings of those windows are. And then here is the 3-foot mark of where the windows still starts. Great. And then the window themselves were 6 feet tall. So draw some more lines up, and then now make that decision and draw it in. Now you have 2 openings which the windows are going into. So windows are inset into the walls, and I've measured the casing of the windows, which were 3 inches all the way around. So I've made some indicators, and now I'm going to draw it in. And these windows are actually 2-pane windows. So from this front elevation of the section, there are essentially two border lines that the windows sit in, one in front of the other. So I'm going to draw that in as well. And then there are those locks that are on top. So draw that in. I've already pre-marked the ticks and measured all of it before. And for windows, you can either do a little 2 dashes, which to me indicates a window, or you literally write down what material this part is made out of. For example, this window is made of plexi, so plexi. And then you draw leading lines to show that that part is part of a window. So now what you have to do is to then use that as a template and then trace it onto your ground plan section. It should be quite easy. Boom, boom, boom. And after you've traced it all down, this is all transferring of what you've drawn before. We should note that this is only the stage right portion of the room that we're drawing. The stage left portion has other information that is not symmetrical to this one, so we should also give folks who are building our set that information. Using the same method that we've shown you, you could make the other side of the section. Thank you for coming. More videos coming soon. Have a good day.